Us not selling, I'm just saying, man, it's gonna hurt us. We have a lot of money for free agents this summer, but I don't like how, if there's my one gripe about Ryan Pace, is that he pretty much was playing for his job this year, which I don't like. And maybe that's because there's an understanding that he is also on the hot seat, and if Nagy goes, he goes too. But it's put this team in a position where I don't feel like we're going to have the greatest turnaround here. We're going to lose some talent, and we're going to potentially get some more developmental pieces a little bit from free agency. But I would have really liked to have seen us blown this team up, especially just considering coming off of a 4 loss streak. It's like this team is exactly what we thought. Can the Bears finally admit it and just blow it up? But it's too late now. Now we got to see this year out. So you do want to see them do as well as possible, I guess. Although that hurts your draft value, you want to see Fields develop and play well. But it's ultimately for nothing, right? Because now at this point, all your weaknesses have been exposed, and no matter how well you play going into the postseason, it's kind of with this knowledge that, like, yeah, but we're fundamentally too weak to do it, to get there. And we have a rookie quarterback. We're not going to the Super Bowl. I'm so amazed by the Bears' logic this year. It's been really painful to watch.
Yeah, and it's just there's a lot to unpack in what you said, but a lot of like really solid points, to be honest. And I think one of them that I think we're both just trying to make is that looking back, we can't say that hindsight is going to be complete 2020 when we're kind of calling it out at this point that, hey, like the Bears probably should have made some moves on trade deadline. We can't just make the excuse of being like, well, of course, after the Bears didn't, finish very well, we should have sold and got more draft picks. It's kind of like what you're saying, and what I want to talk about a little bit more is things along the draft front. And then the other thing that you said being, I think another debate that kind of crops up from all this is, if Nagy goes, will Pace go? And I think we're going to dive into that a little bit more in the future. So we're not going to unpack that all today because that almost kind of needs an episode for itself. I think there's just a lot to unravel there. But as far as it comes with the draft picks, that is something that I think we should at least spend a little bit of time on, just because we really don't have that much this year. Like you said, if we do finish with a poor record, if we end up going 6-11 or 7-10, we're really not even going to benefit that much from it, other than having a somewhat low, second round pick that's going to be, or a somewhat high, I guess, in the terms of the draft, but lower in number,
right.
Second round pick. But how much does that really mean? And it kind of leaves this Bears team, like you said, if we do change GMs and we do, get a new head coach, they can't even really start with that much. They are not starting out with a lot of draft capital, which I think in the long run it's going to be worth it. The Bears gave it up for Justin Fields, but it's kind of been a practice of Ryan Pace to mortgage those higher picks.
Yeah. And again, like, yes, in the Justin Fields trade, it was 100% worth giving up a future first, and shedding some draft capital to get back a franchise quarterback, a guy that's going to be here for hopefully a decade and winning us rings at some point. But we didn't get anything back. I mean, you bring up a good point that it's easy to sit here on our throne and go, obviously at 3-6 we should have sold, blah blah blah. And at the end of the season, when we're 3-14 or whatever, we'll be saying the same thing. But the truth is that I think people who weren't delusionally blind by either fandom or fear for losing their job, a la Ryan Pace, noticed earlier that this thing was gonna tank. That like by week 4 or 5, it was like, well, we suck, and we should probably blow up this year, because now that we've decided that Justin Fields is our guy, we should understand that this 100% is a developmental, rebuilding, retooling, however you want to call it, year. We're not going to win the Super Bowl. We shouldn't aspire for the playoffs in a weird kind of negative way. It actually hurts us, because of our draft capital. We should look to get Fields involved, play as well as he can, put protection around him, blah, blah, blah. But, like, retaining aging defensive linemen does not help develop Justin Fields. It does not help rebuild this team. Not shedding Robert Quinn and Akeem Hicks contracts in particular is detrimental to the team long term. And I think that the moment that we switched to Justin Fields, that strategy should have shifted, right? Like, we should have understood that we're not in win now mode. And pretending like we still are, I think hurts Justin Fields. I think hurts the team. Short term, long term, it hasn't served us. It hasn't done us any good. Keeping these guys hasn't given us a better record. It hasn't made Justin Fields more comfortable out on the field. If you want to stretch that argument to Allen Robinson, fine. Then there's nothing to say there. But in terms of defensive players, they should have been gone. They should have been gone. Robert Quinn is too old. He's making too much money. He's playing way too well for us to have not traded him. I'd like to still see us trade him in the offseason. If we do, I'll feel a little bit better. But that decision might be made by a different GM. So.
Yeah, and I think in the case of the players that, were not on a contract year, so like, someone like Allen Robinson, he's his own case because of the compensatory pick that comes with it, even if he leaves. But, like for the players where it was just like, they might end up walking at the end of the year anyway, it was just like, just get something out of them, just get some kind of value out of what they have left on their contract, because who knows if they're going to come back in 2022. I'm not 100% sure how long Robert Quinn's contract is. In my head, I'm either like he's got 1 year left or this is his last year. I know it was a shorter deal, but I'm.
Am I wrong in thinking that Robert Quinn's deal was a 5-year deal?
Oh, there's.
Let me do a little quick research here.
Because that changes.
Robert Quinn signed a 5-year, $70 million contract with the Bears.
Holy.
Which included $30 million guaranteed and an average salary of $14 million.
Well, honestly, maybe just no one would have taken that contract.
Somebody's going to take that contract. He's playing. Well, he's
playing
I hear you,
very well.
It's a lot of money.
5, sheesh. That means he's got 3 more years left on that deal. Man, I thought he was going after this year.
No. That's what I was saying. He's got a big, fat, expensive contract. He's going to be 32 years old next year. That's not ancient, okay, but he's a veteran. He's an old veteran who's playing at a career high. Get rid of him. We're rebuilding. We have Akeem Hicks. We have Khalil Mack. We have Roquan Smith. Like, what are we doing, man? What are we doing? If we're rebuilding, why? Yeah, sell high. Like, hanging on to him. Oh, great. Watch it. He blows his, here's the thing. It's like he blows his ACL in week 15, right? Now we're holding on to great. His value's dropped. He's a much worse player. He's older. He's coming off an ACL injury. Like, he's never going to be the same. We all know. Like, these things can happen. And I know I don't wish it on anybody here. I'm knocking on wood that it doesn't happen. But the point is that it's like risk management. As a GM, this is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to take guys and sell them high, buy low, try and develop, pieces that are undervalued, and especially during developmental times. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Cardinals, I don't know, the Bengals, like some team that's in a genuine win now mode is going to have interest in guys like this. Even if you don't get like the best return, the point is that it's too much money for a guy who's too old on a team that by the time we are in a win now mode in maybe a year or 2 or 3, because Fields' window is going to be long, and a good chance it's not going to be next year, right? It might be the year after. Not that I hope we're very competitive next year, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Robert Quinn's going to be like 34 years old, 35, man.
Yeah.
It's not going to be, what is the point of these contracts not lining up? And this is where I've even extended this this argument, unfortunately, to Khalil Mack, who's also like 32 years old right now and playing great. If we don't see like a massive uptick by the whole team by next year's trade deadline, I think we should be looking to trade Khalil Mack. This year we should, hang on to him. He's still like a top 10 player in the league, but I just don't think that hanging on to all these old defensive guys makes much sense, especially when we got, and I know he's underplayed, but Eddie Jackson and Roquan Smith and some younger guys that are coming along nicely. Eventually we're going to have to accept that our championship window has moved down the line a couple years.